President at ARTPARK, AI and Robotics Technology Park at IISc. He is going to join us online. And with this, we I now invite on stage Dr. Raghu President, IFCAI, to moderate this session. This topic would be technology's role in achieving citizen-centered universal healthcare by 2030. Can we have a huge round of applause and welcome Dr. Rangareddy Viri onto the dais.
Yes, I hope you are able to hear me okay.
Fantastic. Very warm welcome to you, Mr. Raghu. I'm sure we are going to have a rocking session with you and rest of the colleagues today. Without doing much ado, let us start.
All right, wonderful. So I'm going to put this presentation mode, and then let me share my screen. When I do that, are you able to see this?
Perfect.
Yeah, are you able to see this in screen mode, or are you able to see this in?
Okay, if you can put it in presentation mode, that would. Yes, perfect.
Okay, all right. First, thanks to the organizers for letting me do this remotely, because ironically I did run into a home health emergency situation. Fortunately, all okay. So first, thanks to organizers for allowing me to do that. Second thing, thanks to everyone for finally getting back in the room. I know that the pleasure of an in-person conference is the networking and meeting, friends and other professionals. So thanks for getting back in the room to actually listen to a presentation early in the morning. Today, I want to talk about how technology might enable citizen-centered universal healthcare by 2030. Now, if you think of it, if there's one thing the collective COVID experience reminded us, is the fact that probably the most important moonshot that India needs is universal healthcare. And universal healthcare that is citizen-centered, right? Before I jump in, I just want to acknowledge that the ideas I share here have been formed by both my role at ARTPARK, the AI and Robotics Technology Park at IISc, and also role as a fellow with the Lancet Citizens Commission on reimagining India's health system. Thanks especially to Dr. Vijay Chandru, Umakant Soni, and Sharad Sharma for helping me shape a lot of these things. So let's jump into the future. Let's imagine we are somewhere in remote rural India in 2030. Yes, I do believe even in 2030 we will have remote rural areas. And Shanti wakes up with somewhat of a troubling cough. She's going to launch a Sahayak. And Sahayak asks her, "How are you feeling today?" Coughs. Sahayak asks a few more questions. Do you feel okay? Can you breathe? Can you breathe okay? And she just answers those yes or no. Now, what's happening in the background is an AI screening engine has used the cough sound, the reported symptoms, as well as Savdhan. Savdhan is a population disease surveillance platform that came into existence soon after the COVID pandemic back in 2019. And using inputs from all these, the AI screening engine generates an urgency score, thankfully not too urgent, she isn't too serious, but it does identify two likely causes that are cause for concern because they are actually on the national high vigilance list for diseases. In 2030, COVID-29, the latest version of it, is still on the vigilance list. So Sahayak figures that, okay, because of this, we need to get Shanti a doctor consultation soon. But Shanti is in a remote village. Her husband is out of town on work. Child is at school. Is she going to run to a health and wellness center? Is she going to run to a primary health center? How far is that? What's that going to do for her livelihood? And that's why, because of the unified health interface that the Ayushman Bharat digital mission started rolling out in 2021, think of this as something similar to your email or SMTP protocols, through which you don't have to think about which machine you use or which email program you use, but you are able to connect to the right service and send your messages and receive your messages to and from anyone. Similarly, unified health interface allows anyone to access services, be it doctors, be it labs, etc. That came into being back in 2021, and that's helping Shanti now in 2030. Also, thankfully, PMJ, that initially had focused just on tertiary care, had been modified to allow paying for even private primary health consultations in certain situations. Right? Due to both of these, even though Shanti's regular doctor in town as in regular health and wellness center, is actually away, she is able to also get notifications. And Asha's schedule gets adjusted, and she accepts that she is going to be there with Shanti, and our automatic call is launched for Shanti. Of course, Shanti is a little bit worried, so Asha reassures her, says, rest on your stomach if you're feeling any dizziness. I'll be there soon. And she gets there a few minutes before the consultation. Before even the consultation starts, Asha uses her Mediphone to do some basic things using PPG, photoplethysmography, and as well as other video-based algorithms to do heart rates, as well as breathing rate. She also helps Shanti choose which records to choose with this healthcare provider, and she does that using a fingerprint in the Mediphone, all integrated, of course. Right? The doctor, of course, is ready at 10 o'clock and starts his teleconsultation. Note that the doctor is using something called the Doc 360. It just happens to be part of the UHI program. It's a private provider, but these are the sort of software that are available and very widely used in 2030. Right? Starts the consultation. They greet each other, and of course, doctor starts a regular consultation, reviews few symptoms, asks a few follow-up questions, and he asks Asha to actually do a few more measurements. She uses a simple variable to do those. They come in, and the doctor figures, okay, I understand the situation. There is some cause for concern, though not what I would say panic, and she does need more tests, more confirmatory tests and such as soon as possible. So he just puts that in through the system, and a mobile health van shows up in an hour or so with both scanning technologies, point of care diagnostics technologies that have been especially made possible by digital biomarkers, bioinformatics, and of course the genomics revolution that had happened over the last few years. Now what's going to happen next is that if required, she will get taken to the closest district hospital or any other hospital in the private network. She will get follow-up care. Most importantly, Sahayak and Asha will make sure that there are follow-ups that happen. As we learned through COVID, it's not simply about emergency care at the right moment, but also follow-up care after. And before everything starts, it's about catching things early, right? So what did technology do in this weekend? And let me actually reflect on why I chose to present this in this way. Often when we talk about universal healthcare, it's too vague. What does it mean? What does it mean for actually a citizen, right? In this situation, what we've done is we've treated the citizen with empathy, brought them the right attention, with timeliness, with ease, give them choices that people like you and me take for granted, right? Affordability, continuity. It's not like her previous records were lost, right? Or her health history was lost, right? We provided her privacy, and of course, finally, accuracy and quality that technology enabled in all this. Health professionals were also treated with empathy. They were empowered as opposed to overridden. We managed their schedule. We provided situational intelligence that would be difficult for perhaps a doctor sitting in a remote location or any single individual to have. We cut their manual tasks, and again we provided them ease. Right? So yes, citizen-centered journeys, empowering health workers and professionals, and equally importantly, systems-level intelligence were all key features in this. Right? And that's the sort of universal healthcare we should really be targeting. Now, traditionally, we tend to think of healthcare, we use the term primary, secondary, tertiary. Do you think about whether you're going to get secondary care or primary care when you fall sick? You probably don't, right? Now, the problem is, I think it's fine that we continue to think this way and these constructs will be there, but we have to recognize these are administrative constructs, right? Focusing too much on them has fragmented care, there has been real lack of continuity, and lack of empathy. Journeys are not smooth. Even I cannot really access my health records at the same hospital. What had happened, let's say 2 years ago, right? We need to shift that focus to really imagine universal healthcare. We have to think in terms of citizen journeys. Now, citizen journeys are a continuum, right? We got to think about well-being and prevention, then screening and diagnosis, not diagnosis that necessarily happens in hospitals or labs. Yes, that too. But we got to remember that it starts as early as home and community settings, right? Care and treatment and follow-up, right? So, just to emphasize, we typically tend to think a lot about care and treatment, but we got to be thinking more about these other things. And we have to ask how technology can help there, right? But that's not going to be sufficient, right? We need digital population health. We need societal scale sensing and surveillance, as COVID has taught us, right? Again, I don't need to stress the importance of what sort of role technology can play there. And hence, to really achieve universal healthcare, I think technology has an important role in each one of these blocks, as well as a connecting tissue, right? This includes digital infrastructure that is getting in place currently, both private and public, but there are a lot more things that have to be done, right? Let's just recognize our assets as we move forward, right? We have our public health systems, we have our frontline health workers, and especially the primary infrastructure. In the private health systems, we have lots of specialists, secondary and tertiary infrastructure. Much of the laboratory, what we call diagnostics today, is focused on private health systems. I'm not suggesting we ignore this. We have to ask what's the best way to leverage. And fortunately, because of committing to universal healthcare back in 2017 as a part of National Health Strategy, in 2018, we launched Ayushman Bharat. The PMJ insurance program has already covered over 20 million hospitalizations. There are over 75,000 health and wellness centers operational. And the Ayushman digital mission is also well underway, building critical policies and infrastructure. In all this, let's not forget the force multipliers that are technology and innovators. Technology as we've seen, has really driven a very exponential rate of growth, and I'll just touch on that a little bit. And let's not forget our innovators who are really willing to make a difference. Perhaps many of them in that room are in that conference room as we speak, right? But let's also just make sure we keep in mind we have some pretty big liabilities too. Poor regulation of quality and practices. Anyone who has experienced care anywhere in our health system will tell you this, right? Yes, there are practices, but there are protocols, but then practice often diverges quite significantly for a variety of reasons, right? But how do we ensure that? How do we tackle stuff like, right here in Telangana and Andhra Pradesh, yes, there have been absolute pioneers in health insurance, but we also know some of the downsides we are still grappling with. What would justify 60 or 70% C-sections or cesarean rates, right? Could technology do anything in helping this? Perhaps, but it will take some thought. Misaligned market incentives, and of course constraints on innovation itself. In our enthusiasm to curb malpractice, curb treatment to one company or the other that favors one technology over the other. In trying to do that, we often constrain innovation. We need to find ways to unleash innovation and actually adopt it. Right? Without that, we are not going to be able to do much. Right? So, at a high level, technology, what we need technology to do is really reimagine healthcare, both to enable citizen journeys as well as our regulatory frameworks and market papers. Right? Finally, I will leave you with the key trends. I did not spend a whole lot of time on this because this is what actually, when you go to a technology-based conference, we end up talking about, oh, that startup's doing this startup's doing. All that's wonderful. The thing is, we need to figure out how do we leverage this acceleration and how do we bring in systemic forethought as well as deliberate investments. Right? Connectivity and smartphones are getting sorted already. Digital infrastructure, policy and regulatory frameworks need a lot of work. Thanks to Ayushman Bharat, we are beginning to do that. We need to really push towards bringing sensors of various types, be it phones, peripherals, wearables, more to the front lines, more into the homes, in a way that's really sensitive to privacy and ethics. Right? But without trying to do this, it's our care is going to be concentrated in facilities in a world that is going without walls, in a world that's going virtual. Right? Artificial intelligence and machine learning. We got to go well beyond radiology. Yes, we made some good progress on using things like CT scans and X-rays, but there's a whole world out there. Right? Just in the example of Goodnet that I shared, we saw using sounds and contextual information to make predictions. We also need to take it to the other end of the spectrum, even in tertiary care settings. Right? If you are able to catch a patient who is going to go into sepsis just even hours ahead, it's going to make a life or death difference for that patient, and it's going to make it can make a huge difference for their entire family. Right? And of course, it makes a huge difference for the care providers. Finally, let's not forget language when we talk about AI and ML. Right? A lot of the services, a lot of the services are not going to be accessible without that. Sure, in this forum I showed Shanti speaking in English, but she's probably speaking in some dialect. She could be speaking in Manipuri, or she could be speaking in Telugu, right? And Telugu in Nagam is not the same as Telugu in Vizag, right? So it needs to work for all of them. So that requires investment. Digital and novel biomarkers, bioinformatics and genomics. If there is one area of health that is kind of naturally digital, it's this bioinformatics and genomics. The price of doing full human genome has come down, but it's stagnated. So it requires competition. Haptic to folks like Norbert, for example, who in an environment when we had only CBNAT, brought in TrueNAT. And we've all seen what that has done during COVID. They were able to launch the TrueNAT platform in so many more places than we otherwise could have been, and that has been a boom during COVID. So yeah, thank you for giving your attention. What we hope we will continue to do is really use technology in a way that is truly meaningful. At ARTPARK, the AI and Robotics Technology Park at IISc, I am launching various initiatives that rooted in this vision. Be it bringing together data sets as truly public good, because otherwise we are going to have access to critical data, either for developing technology or validating technology, mostly being borrowed from Western settings, and that's not going to be good enough. Or it's going to be too concentrated with few large conglomerates, and that's not going to be good enough, right? So we're going to be launching some big initiatives around data and health. We are also going to be launching initiatives around AI more broadly in health, and also for bioinformatics and genomics. In the Lancet Commission, we are actually working with a broad set of stakeholders in articulating a vision for universal healthcare, and I'm actually part of the technology stream. So if any of you are interested in collaborating, working with us, do please reach out to me. You have my emails on screen here. With that, let me stop. I hope I didn't take more time than necessary.
Raghu, thank you very much. I hope you're going to stay for some time so that some of the people can ask some questions. Maybe now, so that
yes,
it
absolutely.
is easier. If anybody has any questions, please write and send it, or you can come onto the stage and ask your questions. While you are going to do that, let me profusely thank Raghu for a wonderful presentation. As an young man and public health, or the common man, I think that is what I gather from your little cutie pictures and the concept and story what you have created through very small animations. Thank you very much for that. And couple of things, just wanted to add on to what you said. I completely concur. Today there is a lot of administrative fragmentation which need to be put together. Otherwise, we are going to be getting lost. That you have very clearly emphasized that community health, primary health, secondary and tertiary. By dividing it, today we are not gaining anything. I think those outdated kind of artificial kind of definitions had to be thrown out if we want to have some progress to be made, and definitely technological and technical alignment. That is also another thing which is which need to be built. And I think you have made a very beautiful distinction between our assets and liabilities what we have. I think pandemic has proven sufficiently enough that our assets which are already there are under leveraged, and definitely as a country we do not have good infrastructure and also good the healthcare worker to population ratio. That definitely had to go up. But even before that, whatever assets we have on the ground, they had to be leveraged well. I think that's a great message what you have given. Let me not go on. I think there is one person who already wanted to ask some questions and pick your mind. And I hope off the line we will engage in discussions and try and see how we can work together. Thank you very much, Raghu, once again.
Thank you so much. I just want to add a couple of comments to what you said. Yes, it feels startup like, but quite honestly, this whole vision is being inspired by my own personal experience. In the middle of the second wave, I was diagnosed all over WhatsApp and things like that, right? So if I can do this in 2021, and my phone already does some of the things I've said, PPG, heart rate, and death rate monitoring, just using this phone's camera, right? So I actually think this reality can be achieved soon, perhaps by 2025, right? And I'll be hoping to put together, and I invite, it's an open invitation to everyone, to imagine journeys that we have to enable. Because when you think about that, what journeys we want to enable for both patients as well as providers, that makes real what role technology needs to be doing, right? And hence that's the reason why I decided to use this journeys format as a way to make real what often seems like a very abstract concept.
Thanks a lot, Raghu sir, for that. So, quick question is more true for financial inclusion. Right, and we have seen what kind of adoption has happened over there with the increase in digitization, decentralization, with the things like Aadhaar and NPCI and all those coming together, what they have done, right? In public healthcare, not just there is a problem of data collection, dissemination, decentralization, all that is there. At the same time, there are few other problems as well, which you did briefly touched upon, but I think those are needed to be addressed as well. Likes of, giving this one anecdote, right? So, Dr. Pramod Verma, I was talking to him. So, what is the power of public is that, Uber we know as a huge giant, right? So, one day of Uber's booking is, it is equivalent to what Delhi Metro does in a day, right? That's what, and we know Uber is huge, right? And one city surpasses that. So similarly, public health is a different ball game altogether. It cannot be modeled just from any other, modeling any other healthcare, and that too in India. So what I wanted to touch upon is some innate problems, because I also work in this field, right? It's much higher than not doing anything. Right? I think this is the biggest problem that is there. Right? How do you make the system adopt technologies, AI, ML, that we know it is going to be beneficial? We are working on that. Wherever we are done, we have seen it as saving lives, but do people want to adopt that, right? And how do we make an incentive structure which actually makes them adopt that? I think that is a bigger question which I wanted to pick your brain on. So.
Sure. See, there is no they. The first thing you have to realize is there is no separation between they and us. It's not criticism of what you said or anything, but what I've learned is this, right? I started my journey, I spent a decade in the US commercializing new technologies and then came to India. And one experience that shaped me a lot was as a medical technology entrepreneur, developing infant organs that work without power and could work, anyone could use. But I realized the product itself didn't make enough of a difference. I had to work really closely with the program to really work from inside, right? And I've made it sort of part of my personal mission to continue my roles which involve working from inside the system, right? These are not simply that, look, what existed was only ways for which regular incubators or radiant hormones could be bought, right? There was no way for innovative products to actually be adopted into the system. It involved actually putting the systems together, helping the system actually do the trials and run this. So it's not easy. I think places such as AI and Robotics Technology Park, Bangalore. Previously I was at Vardhani. I actually founded Vardhani AI and launched several global health initiatives there. And there I launched an initiative called Trace TB, a multi-year program with the Ministry of Health to transform the national TB elimination program using data science and AI. It took more than 2 years of effort to bring WHO, Ministry of Health, and USAID as a significant funder together to launch an initiative like that. That was not just about building AI-based solutions, but actually what I call preparing the system, making the CTD, Central TB Division, AI ready, right? And now that initiative is working from inside on both the strategic use do as well as the policies required, right? This phone came into existence because someone, the smartphones, someone had the forethought about the vision and knew how to use strategically technology to actually make that happen and invested in long term. That's the approach that's required, right? And we are pursuing various advocacy pathways and as well as action pathways, as you call, and that through collaborations.
So thanks a lot.
Give your views. If there is any question or
Okay, so thanks a lot, Doctor. So thanks a lot, Raghu. So I'll get in touch with you. Anyways, I have your contact, right? So we'll do something on that. Thank you.
I'm sorry for that, but there are a lot of people asking, wanted to have the opportunity to clarify a few things. Raghu, there is a question from Dr. Dharmaraju. He is asking, what is the role of AI in health promotion and health awareness among common people? What are the current technologies available?
Health promotion and health awareness. I quite don't know what health promotion means. I generally think all of us want to. I think probably at a so to me awareness is just one bit. It's also about the behavior, right? I will argue that AI/ML is already playing a big role in awareness, right? When you start typing your searches into Google, right? As you start typing in COVID, it probably will suggest the latest developments just in your search box, right? How do you make that sort of thing available in local languages, right? So language translation, etc., is a very important element in actually making, promoting and developing awareness around health and health topics, right? Behavior change. Our technology companies have used various nudges. They have learned about every tap of your finger on your phone. They have learned about it in a way. They know that they keep you keeping on scrolling, right? How do you use those sort of nudges in a more positive manner? Gamification is often the term used. I slightly cringe about using that term because it also has a lot of negative connotations. But really understand how to use technology to bring in behavior change is another place where AI and ML can make a difference. Third one, if you really think of well-being and prevention as really the key, right? We've seen in early days of COVID, we could actually be using algorithms along the lines that were highlighted in this story, right? Where we are able to provide advice early on in what you might call disease progression than later points. So predictive power of technology can also come into picture there. So these are some of the things I could think of top of my head in terms of health promotion and health awareness.
Thank you very much. Any other questions before we let go the digital health guru? Okay. Just to wrap up, there are a couple of things probably which you said, Raghu. One is about misplaced incentives. Apart from being a clinician, I am also a social entrepreneur who work in the socially important areas. What I have seen is the incentives have become a kind of menace for innovations, because these incentives, although they are being announced by the governments, they never reach the right people, right? And if you are going to start your venture keeping incentives in mind, I think it is going to be disaster. I have seen personally while mentoring a few of the good startups, but failing actually taking into their business plans the incentive as one of the areas of getting the funding. I think that is since there are a lot of young innovators here, please don't rely on incentives. Incentives, if they come, that is going to be a bonus, but don't actually get them into the business plan, otherwise it is going to be disaster. Second thing, I think, most of us, most of the digital innovations which are happening, digital health innovations which are happening not only in India, but worldwide, they are mostly focused, like our tertiary care currently, mostly curative. They are not preventive. I think probably Raghu would agree with me. I think more and more focus had to be on the preventive care. I think, there is a huge space available. Don't look at today. Like Raghu said, look beyond, look at a horizon of 5 to 10 years. The public health landscape is going to tremendously change, and it is going to throw a lot of opportunities. I think we should really make good use of that. Thank you, Raghu, once again, giving, that fillip and also giving that momentum for the sessions of the day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thanks again for the opportunity to share these.